An idea PR firms and focus groups love, but will the consumer? Last episode was all about the logo and the brand. Today, we put it all together, capturing the attention and money of your customer.
Consumer-facing marketing. This is The Language of Business with Greg Stoller.
How do you choose your dentist? Location, scope of services, referral, or your insurance plan? With so many choices, how do you distinguish among them? This is a project marketing strategist Wendy Carr loves sinking your teeth into. Wendy, welcome to The Language of Business.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you so much for having me.
How did you get Chestnut Dental as your client?
Well, like all my clients, Chestnut Dental was referred to me. But Chestnut Dental is a little bit unique in that I'm really privileged to know them both as a patient as well as their trusted advisor with all their dental professionals. Both my children go there, and they were patients before we even started working together.
And what services do you provide for them?
I work with them to coordinate all of their many community outreach programs and educational programs and awareness programs for dental health.
Are there people on their staff that specialize in the community outreach?
Yes, that is going to be myself and the person who's the community outreach coordinator and marketing coordinator. And we really work together. I'm training him and mentoring him and giving him vision and guidance and working with the doctors as well to make sure that we're getting the most out of all the different programs that we participate in.
Tell me about your specific community outreach programs.
They have some partnerships in the community with some organizations such as the local YMCA, in which they work with them and they provide education about dental health and preventative care for sports injuries. You want to wear a mouth guard and other kinds of information, which is really helpful for the public to know. And it's really community service for them. And all the doctors feel really strongly about being a part of their community and giving back.
Who is Priscilla the Tooth?
Priscilla the Tooth. Priscilla is one of our dental assistants, and she is fantastic, and she's got a great personality, and she really lights up when you put the tooth costume on her. She visits many community events and fairs and nursery and preschools.
Getting them to think in terms of their marketing hat, was that a major change for them?
I think it is, but we're really not thinking of it in the terms of marketing. We're really thinking of it in terms of community awareness and education. So it's a little bit more about just letting people know about who they are and what they have to offer versus marketing. So we don't do a lot of traditional types of marketing.
How do you feel you've changed your clients' practice from their perspective?
Well, I provide them a resource, guidance and vision, and helping them so that they can really focus on their patients, and I can be a resource for them to help them implementing whatever programs they want to participate in to benefit the community.
And how do you structure your contract for services? Is it monthly, weekly, annually, etc.?
It's usually hourly. So I work, and that's actually usually best for all of my clients because they hire me sometimes on a long-term basis and sometimes on a project basis for specific needs. But what I always do is I partner with my clients. They may hire me because they think they need XYZ, but then we evaluate what their needs are, what their objectives are, what they're trying to do, and sometimes it winds up being something different.
In terms of your other clients, what trends are you seeing these days?
People looking to be thought leaders. And I think that's really important because my clients are really more professional service providers. They're doctors, they're attorneys, they're financial advisors and accountants. So I really work more with the type of person who we would call the trusted advisors. And they don't do the same kind of marketing that everyone else might do. So, because the type of decision making that clients need to make or patients need to make is a little bit different. Trusted advisors are really reliant on referrals, not only from other professionals in their industry, but from their clients or patients. So it's really important. Their reputation is very important. The quality of service is very important. But most important is their expertise.
What's the difference between that and a service provider?
A trusted advisor is someone who you are confiding in, who is providing you with advice, be it medical, be it legal, be it financial, who you are really trusting and making important life decisions based on their advice and working with them. A service provider might be a dry cleaning service. Of course it's important, and I'm not trying to put dry cleaners down because they really do, they are important and we all use them.
Right.
However, I don't think that that's really the same kind of decision making, whether or not how you choose your dry cleaner versus just, how you choose your dentist or your attorney.
What would you say is one consistently good trend that you're seeing amongst all of your clients and one bad trend?
I think that one of the good trends is that people are really sharing more with social media and all the other types of communication really on the internet. One of the things that they like to do is they like to educate, and it really gives them an opportunity to do that. So I see that as much more of an awareness builder, and I see that as a great opportunity across the board, not just for Chestnut Dental, but for many of my other clients as well, and just across the board in the industry.
And how about one thing that you want to beat your client over the head about, saying, don't do this?
Sometimes it's that same exact thing. It's the social media. And it's really hard because you either love it or you hate it. And everyone wants information online and they want to get lots of free advice. And that's really tough. And it's also a big time drain. So it's really difficult. It's a fine line to walk because you want them to be the one who's communicating on their own behalf, because that's really the most genuine, and you really get the best information. However, that's also really difficult because it's very time consuming, and it also requires, when you're talking about medical questions or you're talking about legal questions or accounting questions, those answers are really very specific to the individual, and it's really hard to do that.
And
so
you can't market through the clients of an attorney or through the patients of a dentist.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So those are unique challenges that we face when you're trying to market, and it's really not even marketing, it's really building awareness and spreading the word.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Greg.
Wendy Carr, marketing strategist and a principal of Carr Marketing Strategy. Coming up, using marketing to stay a cut above the competition.
Coming up, how a company became successful by not shocking its customers. But first, making a product better by exploiting it. Next on The Language of Business.
Are your insights truly valuable to others? How about your problem-solving abilities? George O'Shea certainly thinks so. He's been working with some of the world's top brands for well over a decade. George, welcome to The Language of Business.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here. Appreciate that.
So why is your marketing counsel valuable to others?
A lot of people, they don't look at past experience and draw on outside resources to try to get fresh set of eyes on a problem. We provide fresh set of eyes and many years of experience to try to bring to take care of a problem that they may have.
As an independent marketing consultant, what needles are you trying to move? Revenue, margin, profit, something else?
Depends on the problem. Some people are trying to build a brand. In that case, the revenue is not really the key driver. Getting the name out there, getting the product onto the shelf is the key piece. The revenue ideally comes behind it. A lot of times it's people that are trying to tweak a product. In that case, it's definitely revenue. They want to enhance that top line. Ideally, if they tweak the product, it's going to impact their bottom line as well. But it depends on who the customer is and who the client is that they're trying to take care of.
Tell us about some of your biggest successes and some of your biggest oopses.
Well, it's a lot of oopses. You learn from past mistakes. There was a company that we worked with when I was just starting out, Menon Company, that Colgate owns.
Sure.
And they came out with a deodorant called Real Deodorant, which was a squeeze top. It wasn't well designed. It was very phallic, and frankly, it was terrible. It was a terrible launch, and it was a classic CPG mistake. And that was fun, actually, to watch how a product was placed, how we got it onto the shelf, and we told them what we thought the problems might be. And frankly, we didn't need a lot of research in that case to find out we were right. It didn't make it. Successes, I mean, the one that comes to mind is the Ninja. It was a brilliant idea by the people at Europro, skilled marketers, really entrepreneurial, very driven, with an ability to get product in front of the consumers on TV. They got behind products, and they had a quad blade food processor, which was big on the shelf. It was not a good product, and it wasn't successful. It was one of the few products they launched that wasn't successful. And they thought they had something. It was a top mount motor. It was a really sharp cutting mechanism, and we went in to meet with them, and we streamlined the vessel. We kept the top mount motor on it and decided that the blade was a really powerful blade, and we launched it as a different product. We named it, we gave it an identity, we gave it a personality, and we embraced the polarizing piece that was inside the product, which was a sharp blade. We made it the hero of the product, and we called it Ninja.
How did you come up with Ninja?
Well, we assembled a team inside of a breakout room, inside of Proteus, my old colleagues. And Charlie Kahn, who was a brilliant branding guy, was the guy that generated a bunch of different ideas on a storyboard. And we all started to participate in a brainstorming session. And we got to the point where the piece that we were touching, the blade itself, was unique. It was like a dagger. I mean, it was a large, sharp element. It was polarizing. And we decided that to really make a story sing, we needed to make that the hero. We named it Ninja just based on the fact that the ninja can perform any task with a sharp element, and generally the outcome is to their favor. It was a very male-oriented type product. It was masculine looking. We needed to soften it to some degree, so we put a powerful woman on the box in a ninja pose, and we came up with the tagline, "Rule the kitchen." And the intent is that who's ever using the product itself, they can make any type of a product that they want. The cutting element, the blade, the polarizing feature, it became the hero. And Ninja stuck. It was named, that day inside of an office with a group of people and supported by the people at EuroPro who thought it was a great idea, and they supported it on TV and drove the heck out of the product.
Are you worried that by saying rule the kitchen or making it female that you were cannibalizing part of your market?
No, because we saw the design of the product, as I said, it was masculine. It needed to be powerful. It was a powerful product. So we had some masculine edges and masculine elements to it, stainless steel, black. The product really popped when it was on the shelf. It was very different looking than a sea of white that you saw at retail. So we knew that a man would be drawn to that product. The woman on the package, she was in a dominant pose, but it was a power pose. It was somebody that we thought would people would gravitate towards. We didn't see it as a polarizing feature at all. We thought, if anything, it would draw on both sexes to say this is a great idea and this is a powerful product that male or female could use.
How many of your ideas get adopted 100% by your client and ultimately shown to the consumer versus heavily edited?
It's a tough question. Generally what you'll see is people, they want ideas, they want fresh eyes, they want somebody to bring a different perspective. And when it gets inside of a sterile building, it gets watered down. We've seen a lot of that. That part's disappointing. At EuroPro, the beauty of EuroPro was it was really two people at the top that were making most of the executive decisions, and they asked really, really detailed questions. And you could almost see the gentleman that was on TV who owned the company. His mind was always going. It was continuously surfacing ideas, and it was rapid fire questions that he would throw at the team as we sat in front of him at a conference table. We could tell when he was interested, we could tell when he was hooked, and we could tell, frankly, when he didn't buy the concept. But we never really backed down, and I think he admired us for not backing down. They were an ideal customer to work with from that perspective. Not every client is like that.
If you had to distill consumer-facing marketing down to one or two key points, what would be the it factor?
Do your homework. The reality is that most companies fail on the upfront. They're afraid to spend money on research. They're afraid to spend money on insights. They're fear to go walk a retail shelf and have somebody with good eyes take a look at that shelf and say, you can play in the following areas, and this is what's going to take to play there. They want the orders. They want to pull product through, but they don't do the upfront. A perfect example is this Apple iPhone launch. The idea that a product of that caliber is bending, to a guy like me, it's inconceivable. They had to have beta tested that product to find out there was an issue with that product. Small companies generally don't do that. Large companies always do that. So the biggest mistake they make is to not spend upfront money.
Thanks, George.
Pleasure to be here. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you.
George O'Shea, product analyst, insight expert, and branding maven. Coming up, plugging themselves into the safety of their customers.
Coming up, a surefire way to make sure your customers are not shocked. Next on The Language of Business. You're watching The Language of Business with Greg Stoller.
Seeing sparks fly in your office is bad enough, but in this case, it could be fatal. Al Peckham is the co-founder and manager of Gloucester, Massachusetts-based Lectrolock. And Al, welcome to The Language of Business.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I see on our table that we have outlet covers. Help us to understand what residential and commercial outlet covers are.
Well, electrical outlet protectors or covers are actually devices that replace standard wall plates. And once installed, they allow for the attachment of protective covers, in most cases clear. And these covers prevent the plugs from being accessed by children. They prevent the plugs from being damaged behind furniture or machinery. And they also contain sparks if a plug were to short out. The exit holes come out of the side of the parts, which also allows for the plug to be retained in there if the cords are tugged on. We sell these for residential applications as a child deterrent. We also sell them extensively to commercial institutions to prevent the plugs from being crushed behind the beds in elderly facilities or in child daycare centers. We also sell quite a few of these to medical labs and hospitals. In schools, they use the flat plates in hallways to prevent electrical outlets from being accessed. And we've done quite well. We've been selling them for the last 2 years, the extended line on the internet.
Al, what is the typical profile of one of your customers?
Well, the typical profile of a residential customer would be a mother who's just had a child. She's come home from the hospital and she's looking at all the safety devices out there. A product like this, when she looks at something like this, you realize it's important to buy the best there is. And we have a small difference in our price, maybe 10% more than a competing product. But when it comes to a safety product, we think people will realize, no, they want the best. For a small amount more, it's worth it. The typical commercial customer we deal with would be a purchasing manager for say, an elderly daycare facility. They'll call us up and they say, we have 200 beds in our institution and we need to put something behind the beds to prevent the plugs from being damaged. What can you do for me on price? That's a typical customer. Or a hospital purchasing manager or a laboratory purchasing manager. Typically, these are the people we deal with.
The focus of this segment is on consumer-facing marketing. How are these sold to the consumer?
We've sold these online through Amazon, eBay, HomeDepot.com, our own website, a number of other resellers for about 2 years now, the extended line. We've done quite well with them. We're in the process now of setting up a national manufacturers rep network. We're doing this to an outside consulting group.
How do you get the attention of your customers?
Well, typically, we have orders that come in from Amazon every day, loads and loads of orders. We put brochures in there, and it's word of mouth. They pass them on, and then we get orders from their friends. It's basically sort of a guerrilla campaign at this point.
How do you do your marketing now outside of your website at Home Depot and HomeDepot.com, et cetera?
That is it. We haven't done any external marketing. We initially had rolled the sales with a advertising and marketing company. We launched it initially. We had the typical SEO, search engine optimization, and that sort of thing. We were listing ourselves in shopping engines and data feeds on the internet. And what happened, as Home Depot picked this up and Amazon, eBay, they began introducing their own sales effort into it. And when someone would search for Electrolock, they would come up anyway. So it didn't matter if they came up to our website or where they came up, they'd already trumped us. And we really couldn't overcome that, so we didn't carry that any further. Our next steps are to put together an active campaign of social marketing, social media marketing. That is on our agenda, and it's one of those things that we haven't quite got to yet. It's early on.
And how would that look? Are you going to be tweeting about your products? Are you going to be using Instagram or other vehicles?
It'll be Facebook, tweeting. We need a full-time manager to handle that operation because we're so busy. We wear so many hats right now. We just can't attend to that. We need an additional layer of management ourselves right now just to do that, and that's why we're actively looking for a strategic partner so we can bring that to bear.
Have you found it's better to go direct to the consumer or rely on a middleman like a Home Depot or an Amazon instead?
Well, we found direct to the consumer seems to work better. It's a high-end product. It's a much better margin when we go direct.
Of course.
And the more middlemen in the channel, the more difficult it is to make money on the product, especially where we make this product in the USA and we're keeping the manufacturing here.
I love that these are manufactured locally in Massachusetts and, of course, with U.S. labor. Has that eaten into your margins?
It has somewhat, but now that is offset because if we were to manufacture these, for instance, in China, we'd have considerable freight costs involved in bringing these over. We'd have an additional layer of management involved to handle the logistics of that. We would also have issues with quality control, our UL listing. And we'd have to order very, very large quantities and warehouse large quantities to make it worthwhile. That would really tie up our cash. The way this is set up right now, all in-house molding and warehousing, we can literally manufacture on demand. And that's a huge, huge benefit to us at our present size.
What is your single goal for the business over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, what we'd like to do is we'd like to extend the product line. We have a number of safety lockout devices based on the same technology, wall outlets where equipment is serviced and the plug needs to be locked out. However, we've addressed probably a larger, more important market than that of the new products, and that is the industrial safety lockout market. And these are very large 240-volt plugs that typically mount on handy boxes, on machinery, and walls. We've developed some new products, they're all patent pending, that will allow us to lock plugs against those boxes, and we're hoping to bring that to market probably within a year.
Al, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Al Peckham, the co-founder and manager of Gloucester-based Electrolock. Outsourcing is a tough sell in any language. But what happens if your job requires you to do it? In France, it even goes against the national grain. Carol Graffin is an international mobility specialist in human resources and is rebranding outsourcing. She's joining us from France via Skype. Welcome to the Language of Business.
Bonjour, Greg.
Bonjour à vous. So, Carol, tell us what caused you to come to France originally?
Well, I first moved to France after graduating from Durham in the UK. I did a French major. And during the course of my studies, I decided that I wanted to combine my love of French and my love of the French way of life with a career in business. What I didn't realize was I'd still be here 23 years later.
And how did you actually combine the two? Was it luck? Was it clairvoyance? Or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. As a student, I did some internships in an auditing company in London, one of what was then the big four firms. And they found me the job in Paris.
What exactly is a mobility specialist?
Well, Greg, as an international mobility specialist, I help companies move their employees around the world. So I help them develop policies that cover the legal, the tax, the social security aspects. But most importantly, in my mind, I also help them make sure that they put in place the right policies to ensure that the families adapt to their new life abroad, because as I know personally only too well, it's easier said than done to go and live in a new country.
And are you primarily moving them from France to other locations or from other locations to France itself?
Well, when I first started out, it was mostly from France to other locations. And right now I'm seeing a real increase in what we specialists call third country moves. So cross-border moves that don't involve France. So the parent company is French, but they're shifting their employees from Brazil to Slovakia, from Thailand to China, from Korea to North America. So it's really is a worldwide field of play.
Are most of your clientele French, either the executives themselves or the companies whom you represent?
Yeah, the major proportion of them are French multinationals and French executives who are moving around the world.
So is it a positive or a negative that you're not French?
I personally feel it's definitely a positive, for the simple reason is that I've been through what these families are going through and what I'm trying to accompany them through. And so it lends a lot more weight to the advice that I give. The fact that I myself have personally moved abroad and lived abroad and learned how to adapt to living in a new culture. So for me, definitely an advantage.
How do you think the companies that you provide services to perceive you?
Well, up until now, the companies that I provide services to have all come to me through my personal network. So they perceive me as the specialist that I am and that I am known to be in the International Mobility Network in France.
How do you brand your services differently than your competition?
Well, I focus my services very much on myself in that I try to brand my experience, my personal experience, be it technical or personal life, and on the fact that the service that I provide is very much an individual tailored service, because many of my competitors are much larger structures than I am. So their services are delivered by platform-based consultants. So you never know who you're going to get when you pick up the phone and when you call when you have a problem. And I have very much adopted and rely on that personal approach that allows me to know all of my expats and all of the companies that I work for. So they know that when they call, no matter when they call, no matter what time of night or day, it's me that they get to speak to.
Do you find that the branding is done differently in France than it would be in other European countries for your type of business?
For my type of business, it's very difficult to say, because the outsourcing, which is basically what I do, is companies outsource their international mobility to me, is very, very new and underused in France right now. As a whole, the French market is not very open to innovative services. You know, in France, everything that we sell and that we export and that we're known for, the wine, the luxury leather goods, is based on generations of family history and tradition. And the French are very wary of anything new. So most of the people in the market right now are global players who are trying to brand and market their services based on their global positioning. And it's not taking off as well as people thought it would.
It's not taking off well in France, or it's not taking off well from the company's perspective?
In France, because people in France are very closely linked to their company, and the idea of outsourcing services, which in France is still very new. I know it's something that's much more common in the Anglo-Saxon market, but outsourcing services for a company is very badly looked upon. It's as if you're trying to cut jobs, save money, and people don't see the positive side of outsourcing to specialists who can provide the company with the expertise that they can't necessarily afford to have in-house.
So even if your expertise is double or triple what a company might have in-house, it's still viewed as a pejorative.
Exactly. And it takes that personal relationship, which is very important in French culture as a whole, the building of the personal relationship to make the outsourcing happen. And that's why I personally have chosen to brand my services based on my experience and who I am, and the fact that I am always on the file. Because in France in particular, it's that personal relationship that is much more important than any global branding, particularly when you're dealing with people.
Are you ever looking to leverage your brand into a new suite of services?
It's something I'm currently giving some thought to. I'd very much like to move into some web-based tools. But right now, as an individual entrepreneur, it's the kind of development that I'm not quite ready to fund.
Carol, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Carol Graffin, International Mobility Specialist in Human Resources, joining us from France via Skype. Made local and bought local. Sounds like an interesting trend. That's going to be the focus of our next episode on the language of business.
U.S. manufacturing is coming back home. Next time on The Language of Business. To learn more about branding, marketing, and positioning, go to bclob.com.